People will buy products for their health with way less care than their t-shirt. You can buy another t-shirt, you can buy new sneakers. If you smash your phone, you can get another one, but you'll never be able to buy another body. People had started to say, like, what are you drinking and what's your stuff? People would ask us for the recipes and I would write them on a Post-it note. And then there were so many people asking, I would pre-write the Post-it note. And that's the inception, essentially, of how SWIISH began. So I had this great pregnancy, I had this dream run, everything was amazing, and then I found out that I had cancer. It's like stage 3, and a really like rare, aggressive form of breast cancer. See you later. When you're well, you just be like, oh, 5 years from now I'm going to do this. You have such freedom to dream and think, and suddenly when you're unwell, you're like, I don't even know if I'll see next summer. Should I write her all these letters in case I die? You know, like, hey, you're 10 and I'm not here, you know, like all these things. And then I was like, no, because if I write those, am I then a contributing factor in an outcome I don't want? My whole thing is I hope and pray you feel amazing. I want you to wake up and be like, I fucking feel amazing.
What in that moment stuck with you that you felt changed how you saw life?
This episode is brought to you by Wix Studio.
Here at the Agency Podcast, we're building a community and we would love for you guys to be a part of it. So we would love to hear from you. What are you enjoying the most? What would you like to see more of? And what do you think might be missing? Drop a comment, make sure you subscribe. And now, on with the show. Sally, welcome to the Agency Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to catch up with you. I know you're incredibly busy, and we've been ships in the night. We've been trying to make this happen for like a year.
Yeah.
So finally we're here. We made it happen. And there's so much to unpack with your story. You're an enigma. You've got a ton of energy. You've lived 15 lives. I think just to give people context, because you've done so much, we want to get into the technical source of what you're doing with your brand. But before we do that, I just kind of want to open and unfurl where you came from and where all this energy comes from.
Yeah, I don't know where the energy comes from. So let's see. So at school, I was goody two shoes. You know, want to do the right thing, but I always want to be in TV, right? Like I want to be in always. I want to be on Young Talent Time. It was like kind of Danny Minogue, right? So it was like they were like young kids and they would sing and dance and it was like what you would watch. And I wanted to do that. And my mum and dad were accountants. And so they were like, no. That doesn't sound like a job where you're going to get like, you're going to be able to pay rent. Like you need to get a steady job, a safe job. And that was really drilled into me, I think, from a very young age, like a conservative upbringing, safe. And I think it's funny because now I see what I'm like and I'm very risky. I actually like risk, but it was drilled into me like be safe. And so after school, I went to uni. I did accounting, I did marketing, and that's just what you did. So I got a job in accounting, I worked in banking, and then I went and worked in investment banking, and it was good. I liked it. It was absolutely fine, and I was happy. I actually was happy, and I worked my way up. That's what you're supposed to do. I got to like VP level. I was on a good salary. Everything was terrific, and in all fairness, I really saw my life playing out kind of the way I'd imagined it as a kid. And then I met Marcus, who I'm now married to, and he said to me something just like really in passing. I was like, I always want to work in TV, and mum and dad were like, no. And he was like, God, that's a shame. Like you would just never want to die wondering.
Ooh.
And it literally was like, phew, and that's it. And maybe about a month later, I was like, I'm going to leave my job. And he it's like, what the fuck? It's like, we'd already bought a house. We had a big mortgage, and we'd had a conversation when we bought the house. No one can leave their job. This is a really big mortgage. We're all in. And I was like, yes, I'm strapped in. But then he said the comment and then my life changed. And I was like, about that. I really think.
And it just so happens, well, you said it.
Yeah.
I'm just living up to it.
I mean, you said this thing. And I resigned. And everyone thought I'd lost the plot.
You didn't have a plan B? You were just like,
I had no plan B. I was like, I'm going to go get a job in television. I'm 30. I have no contacts, no network. I have no experience. I don't have a journalism degree. I mean, I'm from accounting and marketing. That's what I did. I have nothing to go on, and everyone around me is buying houses and having kids. That's what you're doing at this age, right? And here I am, literally blowing up my life with nothing but just this whim and this dream.
Wait, what happened in this month? It can't just be the comment.
It was the comment, and I think it was like, because he said you never want to die wondering. There was something about dying, that like, funnily enough, I was like, oh my God, I'm 30. And I've spent all this time in a way doing something that's fine, but not what I want. I think I already was unhappy, and maybe I needed someone else's permission back then. That comment, not only did it change the course of my life, but actually it's like a switch inside me went off. And ever since then, I'm rogue. I'm doing all kinds of shit. Everyone's like, I don't think we should be doing that. And I'm like, watch me jump. We'll work it out on the way down.
Yeah. So you were in a situation where you literally would not be able to cover the mortgage.
Oh, no, we had to sell the house. So
you sold the house?
We sold it. Yeah, we had to.
You went all in.
I went all in.
You completely pivoted your life. You tore up the mortgage.
And
your husband's like, why
and
did I
he's
say
like,
that?
right, okay. And the thing is like, you still have bills. Like, even though like, great, we don't have a mortgage, we're then like renting, you've still got electricity and water and cars and like all that stuff. And so he was like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I want to go work in TV. And I was like, I get like, obviously, I'm going to work. I'm going to go and become a personal trainer and a Pilates instructor while I try and get into TV. This is like 2001, right? So what does get a job in TV? You can't go on Seek and be like, hi, look, there are no jobs. They don't advertise those jobs. Like what? There are 3 stations. There's fucking 3 jobs at every station. Like there are no jobs. There's only 10 jobs in the entire industry. Like where are you going to get that job? And why are you, the person with 0 experience, how are you going to get it? And also technically too old. 30 is like kind of old to be starting in TV with no experience.
Okay, so like the cards weren't really in your favor.
At all.
We have 3 national stations,
Correct.
7, 9, and 10.
7, 9, and 10.
ABC, SBS.
I don't want to work there.
Yeah.
Right, because I want to do like fun stuff,
Yeah.
and no shade. And there's 3 stations. There's 1 or 2 shows. Like there's basically 2 breakfast programs because that's what I want to work on. I don't want to work on the news, and I'm not going to go and work on like Home and Away. I don't want to be an actor. I want to be a TV presenter. So there's like 2 shows, 3 stations. There's literally like 10 jobs. There's like there are no jobs in TV.
And you're like, I'm going to fund this with Pilates.
I'm like, watch me go. P.S. Pilates is so new back then. No one even knows what I'm doing. They're like, what the fuck even is Pilates? No one's even heard of Pilates back then. Because what you're actually doing is you're going for plan A, but you're working on plan B at the same time. And I start to build a personal training business. I'm working on this Pilates business. I'm getting clients. I'm training them at the gym. And I am now trying to teach myself TV presenting. P.S. Back then the phone we were all on Blackberries. There's no camera, right? And so how am I practicing? I'm paying $600 a day to get like a super cute video camera, which I'm setting up in my like lounge room. And I'm reading like new idea articles to practice being a TV presenter. Which is sort of weird now. Like now it's weird, right? Because everyone's got their phone and everyone's a fucking TikTok star, right? Like back then, really hard, right? And so I'm doing courses, I'm practicing, I'm trying to get better. I'm like sending off like show reels. I'm getting no replies for years, but I don't give up. I'm like, I just know. And I had this analogy back then. It was like a nightclub line. I don't know. Have you ever lined up for a nightclub?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Right. So you line up and you wait. And then some people, they just can't be bothered fucking waiting. They exit, right? And then you move up in the line. And I was like, this is the same thing. I'm just going to stay in the fucking line until I get to the front of the line. Like I have that mentality. Because if you exit the line, you're definitely out. But if you stay in the line, you've got a chance, so stay in the line and do the work. So I was doing all my courses, sending off all this stuff, getting rejected for even free work. I was applying at Channel 7 for work experience for 3 years. 3 years. They wouldn't even take me for a week, like for free. And it was like, don't pay me. I just want to turn up. Eventually, after 3 years, I worked on like community TV, which is like, this is all free. This is like, we are not making $1 here. This is all free. But eventually I was like, I don't care. I'm getting experience. I'm getting confident. I'm getting this under my belt. And eventually I get this job for work experience at the Great Outdoors, which is like the #1 travel show. And I'm working for free. I'm just doing some research and I'm thinking, this is it. This is my lucky break and I'm going to stay here until I can turn this into something. And I stay for a week. I do this work experience. And after like 2 weeks, the guy's like, okay, listen, you can't just stay here. And I was like, okay, can you introduce me to, because I was like, this is like the primo show, right? This isn't going to work out. I need to go to a really small show where I can actually, if they've got less staff, I could be there and I could be of value. So it's like you need grip, you need brains, right? You can't just be like, oh, I want to be at the best show. It's like I've got to think, hang on a minute, this is the best show. They're not going to want me here. Why don't I go to a small show where I can be of value? There won't have as many people. Maybe they'll be happy to have me for free. And I did that. I went to Sydney Weekender and I was like, can I work here? The guy was like, yeah. You happy to not get paid? And I was like, absolutely. He's like, amazing. Here's a desk. Start working. And I would research and I would produce. I'd be like, okay, like where are the TV presenters going to go? And like, what are the segments? And I remember maybe after like 5 months, one morning, Al, he like walks in. He's like our executive producer. And he's like, morning. And he looks at me and he goes, you know you're still not getting paid, right? And I was like, yes. And he goes, just checking. Because
he's like, I don't want to lose.
Yeah, he's like, you're not getting paid. And I was like, absolutely. He's like, why are you still here? And I was like, because I'm learning. I'm on the job. I am learning. You're actually doing me a favor. Because before that, I was in my lounge room with a camera I was renting for $600 trying to work out what they did in TV. I'm actually here now. And I worked for free for 1 year. Wow. 1 year. And I was then with my Pilates and personal trainer, I was like basically getting up at 4 a.m. I would train clients at the gym from like 5 until 9. I'd get in my car. I'd drive an hour across the other side of Sydney to get to the studio. I'd be like getting changed out of my personal training clothes into my like work clothes. I get there. I do a full day for free. I drive back in the car. I go back. I train clients until 10 o'clock at night.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, wow.
And I would have done that, honestly, for many years. I didn't care. I was like, I'm going for it because if you want it, I was like, I want this. And it was like I was trying to make up for lost time. I think it's like that period of time where I was like from 20 to 30 where I should have done what I wanted and didn't. I was like, I'm going to make up for it and I'm going for it.
So you're like right at the front of the nightclub. You can hear the music. You can see in the door.
Totally. And they're having fun in there. Yeah. I was like, I can feel the beat. I was like, I'm getting in there. I'm getting in there. When I get in there, drinks on me, And I think that's the thing. Most people, they exit the line. Like, why do people do that? Stay the course. If you want that thing, stay the course. People tap out too early.
In that moment where you're crushing it and you're doing it for free, I would imagine in their mind, they're like, man, this chick is crushing it for free. And we have people we're paying that aren't bringing the amount of energy she's bringing. So if you were to zoom out of your thoughts and into their thoughts, what do you think the signal was? What do you think the strategic play was from the team looking back at you?
I think they were like, she cares. She cares. She's not treating it like I'm only working for free, so I'm going to half-ass it. I'm treating it exactly the same as whether you're paying me full rate with a bonus, I could have been on the same salary I was on in investment banking. I didn't consider the dollar value that they were giving me. I'm factoring in, you're actually giving me something priceless here. I'm leaving here with on my resume a year's worth of experience. And also I actually know something. And, it was so funny because I knew what it was like to be on the outside knocking, right? Sending off all those emails, sending off your show reel, trying to get an in. But here I am, I'm in. And I say to my boss, it's like, what is it you want to do? And I was like, I want to be on TV. I want to be a presenter. It's like, oh, fuck, I got a whole heap of those. He was like, I need basically everybody to drop dead first and then then you can have a turn.
And they're not going anywhere.
And then no, and let me tell you, when you have a job in TV, you are holding on to that thing like for dear life. As luck would have it, this is the thing about being in the line. That's when the magic happens. Someone calls in sick. It's a Friday. The shoot's on Saturday. And he's like, you're up. But this is where all the stuff in the lounge room comes to play because when you get your lucky break, you can't be like, oh, shit, I now need to practice. When you get that lucky break, you better have done your rehearsal. You better have practiced. You better have your skill ready. He's like, great, tomorrow you're going to go and you're going to do a TV. You're going to be on TV. When he says to me, you're up tomorrow, you're going to go, you're going to be on TV. It's
so he came up to your desk one day and
he comes up and he goes, it's Friday. And he goes, Mel's called in sick. And it's like the story's Manly Waterworks, right? And you're going to go down the slide and you're like, hi, I'm at Manly Waterworks. And you're going to go down the slide. And I've seen everybody else do it. And it looks like anything. It looks easy when you watch someone else do it. And in that moment, I feel both sick because it's like, this is it. If I fuck this up, these last 3 years have been a complete waste. But I'm also like, this is the moment I've been training for. This is the moment I've been waiting for. This is it. My career hinges on this moment, you know. And look, was I outstanding? Really? I was average. But as he said to me, he's like, you know what? It's all right for somebody who hasn't done it before. If again, everybody falls sick, you can have another turn. Stay in the line. Your second chance comes and your third chance. And eventually he's like, all right, you know, and it took me a couple of years. So I was there a long time, a couple of years. I'm like researching by day and every like maybe month I might get a segment. But I've come a long way. It was only 4 years ago that I was literally handing in my resignation. Everyone was laughing at me going, oh, you're an idiot. If you are waiting for everybody to believe in you, you could be waiting a long time. Ooh. Like if I hadn't left just knowing on my own gut instinct and Marcus said that thing to me and then I was like, I'm going for this, right? But everyone around me, with the exception, honestly, of like Marcus and my sister who were like, you know what, if you want to, go for it. But everyone was like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot, you know? And people would say stuff like, oh, you're still trying, cute. That's a blessing because it's like, you know, that really taught me. It's like, well, I'm not going to wait around for you to clap and cheer and say, yes, go for it. Because if you're waiting a long time. Just go for it. You know, it's at the end of the day, you come in alone and you exit alone, sadly. If you're waiting for everybody, if you're waiting for people to give you permission, and I think it's because I always waited for permission, right? And so I'd learned now, fuck waiting for permission, we're going for it. And what happens is when you then do it, everyone's like, oh, I always knew it was going to work. I always believed in you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so good, thank you. I must have felt it from a distance, like a real big distance. But like it's also not their job to do that.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the key. It's your job. It's actually your life. If it's your life and your dreams, then why on earth did you wait for this last component, the permission and the cheering? Why did you hand that over to someone else? That also still resides with you. They all reside with you. You know?
Clients want it all. A slick-looking website that can run their business and scale with their success. Wix Studio is built for that. Plan out your client's whole site in seconds with AI-powered site mapping and wireframing. Then when everyone's on the same page, jump into the creative, starting off in Figma or in the Wix Studio editor with super precise layouting tools like Grid, Stack, and Flexbox. Go above and beyond the brief with no-code animations, custom CSS, and built-in business solutions. And make your whole vision responsive in a click. And there's zero need to break a sweat when clients grow fast. A dynamic CMS with global design settings and reusable assets lets you turn one page into hundreds. Design smoother and deliver sooner. Go to wixstudio.com.
So there's a few things I want to maybe loop back into around risk and patience.
Yeah.
But like, I guess to kind of flesh out the second part of your story, because it's pretty crazy. So, you know, for those listening, brace yourself. But how did you get from that point through to now?
So I'm at Sydney Weekender. Everything's great. It's all terrific. And then in theory, I've like made it. And then I go in and I say, I'm resigning. I'm resigning. And he's like, oh, they're hard. There are no jobs. Why don't you manage to get one? And I was like, it's not enough for me. It's not enough airtime. I want more airtime. And because it was like a half-hour show, you only got airtime like once every second week. And I was like, I want to be on TV every single night. Like that's what I want. So I left. And with no job to go to, but I wanted to ultimately to, you know, come back to the thing I wanted, which was always to be an entertainment reporter. That's what I wanted to be. Anyway, I harangued the EP from Today Tonight for like a year. I was like, I want to come and work there. I want to come and work there. Eventually, they had a job going. And he rang me and said, you can come for the interview, but you're not going to get the job. But I want you to have a chance to do the interview because you've been ringing me basically nonstop, annoying me. I turn up for the interview and I was thinking, I'm going to get this job. Like I am not leaving without this job. And he was like, what do you want to do?
He tells you.
I was like, he tells me I'm not getting
I'll
it.
interview you, but you're definitely not getting the job.
He's like, you're not getting the job. But I'm like thinking, I'm coming and I'm going to get this job. And he's like, okay. So I sit down and he's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to be an entertainment reporter. I want to do, pop stars, movie stars. I want to do fashion. I want to do beauty. And he's like, everyone wants to do politics. I want to do world affairs. I want to do current affairs. And I was like, not me. Don't care. Don't care. It's literally, I don't want to chase a plumber down the street. I don't care about any of that stuff. I only want to do like this stuff. This is what I care about. I want to do the dress you can wear 100 ways. I want to do like top 5 beauty trends. That's what I care about. And he was like, all right then, job's yours. I was like, all right then, amazing. And I went with and like
you're like, I knew it.
I knew it. I was
you.
like, this is it. And it was like, because I think I was so different to anyone else. He was like, nobody wants to do those stories. I was like, I fucking do. I love those stories. And I did every single person you can think of, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, like every single, like Rihanna, like I did every single pop star, music star. I did movies. I did everything. Red carpets. Like I traveled the world. And it was high pressure. Like we were the number one show. You know, 4 a.m. you get a message on your BlackBerry and he's like, I need a 3-minute story tonight. And it was your job to pull the story together. You've got a, cameraman, a soundie, and you've got to book the location, find the story, write the story, script the story. You've got to sit with the editor. You've got to make sure your story gets to air. It has to pass. Like if you've got to give it to him, he's got to say, yes, it's okay. Like you're under pressure morning till night. But I fucking loved it. I loved it so much. So I was there for 4.5, 5 years until I fell pregnant with Annabelle, my first child. And then I got cancer. I found out I had cancer the day before she was born.
The day before she was born.
Day before she was born. So I had this great pregnancy, I had this dream run, everything was amazing. And then I found out that I had cancer. It was like stage 3. And a really like rare aggressive form of breast cancer. It was really bad. The prognosis was really bad. They were like, you're basically not going to make it. You should prep, blah, blah, blah. And
the day before your daughter's born.
It was really rough.
It
was really rough. But I had like kind of 1.5 to 2 years off for treatment. And in that period, that's when I started to like make smoothies to try and get better. I then came back to work. To make smoothies get better. Then I wanted to do the smoothie book, which nobody believed in and everybody said was like an absolute joke because no one's ever heard of a green smoothie in 2011. We then go on to do the book, self-published. It goes to number 1 and that's essentially what started our brand. I then went back to TV, did another like 5 or 6 years hosting my own show in the afternoon and running SWIISH at the same time. And here I am. I don't know.
That's intense. So like, I'm trying to picture the amount of emotions that would be running through anyone in that situation.
Yeah.
So you're there, you're laying in bed and they're giving you the prognosis. Like what happens?
So I'm at Today Tonight. I'm in this dream job and everything's amazing. And it's literally, so at this point I'm 38 and so I've gone from 30 to 38. From this time I quit my investment banking job to now, like it's been 8 years of this like wild ride and I literally am on top of the world. I'm in the best job in TV. I'm so happy. I'm finally pregnant. I have this great pregnancy. Everything's terrific. I finish up with a week to go. And I'm still kind of working. I'm lining up a Sarah Jessica Parker interview. Everything's good. I get a book deal. I actually get this book deal. So random, right? So I get this book deal. I had this idea to do this kind of like celebrity party book. I get this book deal. I'm like, my life cannot, like this is like chef's kiss to the universe. Thank you. I'm so happy. I go to see my obstetrician, because I'm overdue and, he's like, how you feeling? I'm like, amazing. Everything's great. And I had a lump in my breast, but I was like, oh, my body's changing. This stuff happens. It's all fine. And it had been there for maybe a few months, but I kept forgetting to tell him. I kept forgetting. Every time I go, I'd forget. So I'm at this appointment. I finish. He's like, the baby's healthy. It's all good. Are you happy to wait another week? I'm like, yeah, I'm all good. And I get dressed and I'm actually leaving. I'm leaving the appointment. The door's open and I've literally got 1 foot across the threshold. And then I remember about the lump. And then I'm like, oh, I forgot to tell you. I think I've got like a blocked milk duct or like something because I've got this lump. And he's like, you better show me. And then I'm like, but I look down the corridor and everyone's waiting for their appointment. When you go to the obstetrician, it's packed, right? And I was like, oh, no. I'll show you. I'll be back in a few days. I'll show you then. I said, I feel bad because everybody's waiting for their appointment. And he says to me, absolutely not. You must show me. Anyway, he like has a feel. He's like, okay. He's like, do you know what we're going to do? I'm going to get Lex to like book you this appointment, his assistant, at the clinic. And he's all lovely about it. And I'm like, oh, it's so nice. They're so nice here. I walk back out to the front desk, to pay. And I can hear her on the phone to the breast clinic, and they're saying, oh, there's only the next available appointment's in 3 weeks. And she's like, we need the appointment. And so she gets me an appointment at 9 a.m. So I go at 9 a.m. and Marcus is like, do you want me to come with you? And I'm like, oh, why? It's all good. I'm just going to go. And I get there at 9, it's packed. Still there at 4 p.m. Everyone's been and gone. And at lunchtime, Marcus is like, you're still there? And I'm like, yeah. I almost feel like the universe was like, I don't know whether I knew and I was no, I don't think I knew. I just was like, I don't know. I just was like off with the fairies. Everything was so good. I don't think I could have imagined anything was wrong. And at 4 p.m., they say to me, I've at this point had like biopsies and whatever. And I don't really know what a biopsy is. I've never had one before. So I'm like, okay, sounds good. Okay. And then they say to me, do you know what we might do? We might get Marcus down here with you. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. Again, I'm like, oh, that's so nice. They're so nice here. I think it's because I'm pregnant. And he comes. And while I'm waiting for him to come down, they've got this nurse and she's sitting with me. And I'm on my BlackBerry. I'm doing this Sarah Jessica Parker thing, right? I'm handing over this interview to somebody else in my team to do. And I say to her, I don't need you to sit with me. I'm okay. And she's like, I know. I'll just stay here. And I'm working. And years later, maybe like 4 years later, I was at this breast cancer fundraiser. And this woman comes over to me and she's like, hi, you don't remember me, but I sat with you. And I was like, I said, I'm actually annoyed at you because you were sitting with me. And she goes, I know you were. And I said, I didn't know why you were there. She said, I know. And that's what made it sadder. She said, our job is to stay with the person and in case it dawns on them that they're about to get given this terrible news. And she said, and I've sat with people and they always know. And she said, it was almost like, she said, you were unaware and it was so painful to watch, she said, and then, it was really, and so then Marcus came and I was like, oh, so nice you're here. And then they were like, listen, this is bad. You've got like really rare, really aggressive form of breast cancer. It's really advanced. It's stage 3. And they're like, okay, have to basically have the baby tomorrow. And I'd like gone full term. So they're like, the baby's okay, so you got to go tomorrow to have the baby. Then it was maybe like Tuesday. And they're like, before the end of the week, you have to do chemo. You have to start or you're going to die. It was really heavy. It was really heavy. And it was, and it's, and I think it's, I was then, of course, like, I want a cesarean. I was like hysterical. And I think it's like, you've got to then go tell your parents, that's really awful. I had to tell my sister. We're very, so close. Like you're also like sharing this awful news with the people who love you. I don't know. It was terrible. It was terrible. And I had no family history. Like I had no kind of, I'd seemingly healthy and fine. And they made me give birth basically the next day. And I remember like I was sobbing. I was like, I just want a week. I just want to go home for a week with my baby, and they were like, you don't have a week. You don't have time. There's no time. You have to do chemo. And I had to do like old school chemo, the kind that like they put it in your arm and it goes for like 6 or 7 hours and it goes in and it burns and you're so nauseous for fucking weeks. I lost my hair. All my nails fell off. My skin was grey. I put on like 30 kilos from the chemo. Like you're like a shell of yourself. And the thing is like you're doing the chemo, but you don't even know if it's going to work. Like the whole time they're like, this is not great. So it's not like you're doing it, but they're like, this is great. We've got great results. They're like, this kind of cancer, This has terrible outcomes. Very lucky. I'm very lucky to be here. Very lucky, you know. But, you know, coming back to grit, I sometimes would think, you know, almost like all that, you know, trying to get into TV, that grit, that like perseverance was like a training camp for cancer, because no one's going to make you go to the chemo, right? No one's going to come and drag you there. You know, so many times, like you're so sick. You're so sick. The sickest you've ever been in your life times 1 million. And I remember maybe like 4 months in, just at this one point, I remember like being in the shower and I was like screaming from the pain. Like your entire body is at war. It's at war with itself. Like you're so sick. You're so sick. You can't keep food down, but you're hungry, but you feel like you've got this petrol taste in your mouth, but you're nauseous. You feel like your bones are being ripped apart because you get these injections. You feel you can't sleep, but the painkiller is like endone's not fucking strong enough. Like the whole, like your body is, and there's no reprieve. Like it goes for like 2 weeks and then finally it wears off. And just as it wears off, you have to go back again. You know, so I remember at one point I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this. And then I was like, I have to do this, you know? And it's like, it's very much the same. It's like you have to stay in the line, to keep going. You know, you can't quit. Just like you didn't quit on those other things, you can't quit here. This is not the one we're quitting on, you know? And these things make you stronger. They make you stronger. They give you heaps of empathy, you know, and they make you also realize like life's short and you want to go for it.
First and foremost, thank you. No, don't be sorry. Like I felt this, and like, you know, pregnancy is a lot, and having your firstborns is difficult.
Yeah.
And then adding this on top,
yeah,
your career on top of that, and everything else, and all the pain. How in this did you find that next stage of your life? Because it's looking forward at that moment must have been excruciating.
It's really hard. I remember I rang my sister like around 6 months, I think, into my treatment, and it was still like really bad. And I was like, if I survive, and you use terms like if I survive, if I live, which is really weird because when you're well, you just be like, oh, 5 years from now, I'm going to do this. 3 summers from now, we'll go to Italy. Like you have such freedom to dream and think. And suddenly when you're unwell, you're like, I don't even know if I'll see next summer. People are talking about next Christmas like it's real casual, but well, what if I'm not here for it? So you have a real sense of time. And I remember I rang her like around 6 months in and I was like, if I live, then let's do something together that helps people feel good. You know, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't have a concept. I didn't like know anything. And she was just like, fuck, just get better. Just get better, you know? And sometimes you need a glimmer of something. Like I knew I wanted to go back to TV if I lived, and I knew like it's funny, the thing you always want when you're sick is your old life back, but you've changed, right? So it's like there's a disconnect going on. It's like so much, it's like I want to go back to where I was, but you can't. You've fundamentally changed, and you will never see, like I now see the world so differently. I can't go back to how I used to see it before cancer. I just can't. It's like you know, you've gone through something that's changed your viewpoint now and everything. So but I needed that something to look forward to that was just an imagine if, you know. And also the other thing was that I was so torn between, do I succumb and accept that this might not happen? Like I remember one night with Annabelle, like I was doing a feed and I was like, should I write her all these letters, you know, in case I die? Should I write her these letters that she could open over the next, you know, course of her life? You know, like hey, you're 10 and I'm not here, you know, like all these things. And then I was like, fuck, no, because if I write those, like, is part of me, am I falling into something? Am I, you know, am I then a contributing factor in an outcome I don't want, you know? So then I was like, no, I'm not going to write those things, you know? It's like, I'm going to be here to tell her those things. And so in the same way, I think that glimmer of like, what work can I do? How will I raise her? Imagine if I could have another child. Like I needed to have these things to dream of so that I didn't fall into accepting this as my fate.
And I understand that it was a journey that was introspective, because I can only imagine how much health was a priority for you at that time.
Yeah.
And obviously then you started looking at ways you could help other people.
Yeah.
So it was a part self, part I want to fight for something greater than myself. All in that one moment. What was the infancy of the idea for what is now SWIISH?
So it's funny. When I was, you know, technically better, you know, I'd finished all of my treatment, all of my surgeries, and they were like, okay, you know, you're amazing.
So this is 6 months?
So this is like about 15, 16 months, maybe 16, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, around just a bit under a year and a half. And I'm like cancer free, which is amazing. You know, I have a very high, this particular cancer had a really high reoccurrence rate in years 2, 4, and 5, you know, so to get to the 5-year mark is a real, you know, very big deal. And so it's like you're technically better and you're finished now, that you're not going to see your oncologist anymore. You're not seeing your surgeon, like you're finished.
But there's still that lingering fear.
I'm sick. I'm actually unwell. I'm like, so they're technically like, you know, hospitals are there to make sure you don't die. That's their job. They're finished
and
now. And they're like, thank you.
But
amazing.
You're still sick. You don't feel great.
I feel terrible. I'm like, my skin's grey. I'm so unwell. So I start to basically go, how am I going to build up my life? So funnily enough, in this period, you know, when I was doing the personal training and Pilates, my plan B, in case I didn't get a TV career, was to be a naturopath. And so I started a degree. I did 2 years of a naturopathy degree.
This is all in a decade, by the way.
I was very busy. Very busy.
Yeah.
I did 2 years of naturopathy degree, and I remembered how, like, when we did nutrition and like greens. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do greens. I'm going to have greens. How many freaking stir fries can I eat in a day? And then I was like, okay, if I could do like blend and then smoothies, and then I was like, okay, I could make it like a drink, like a milkshake, blah, blah, blah. So I started to make green smoothies, and I started to feel like at home, and I'm mixing all kinds of, half of them are terrible and I'm tipping them down the sink, half are good. But I'm starting to feel like this shift. And I say to my sister, you have to make this thing I'm having. I feel so good. And she's like, oh God, I'm not going to upset her. She's been through so much. I'll drink the sludge or whatever makes her happy. So she's drinking, and eventually she's like, you know what? This is okay. I feel good too. And for months I'm making these random things and we're drinking them and we feel good. And I say to her, I feel amazing. Like, imagine if everyone had this. And I was like, I thought it was just me because I'm coming off a low base. Anything's going to feel good. I said, but you were healthy and you feel good. She's like, I feel amazing. And I was like, there's something in this. And people had started to say, like, what are you drinking and what's your stuff? And that's the inception, essentially, of how SWIISH began. It was like literally, I was like, let's do this. People would ask us for the recipes and I would write them on a Post-it note. And then there were so many people asking, I would pre-write the Post-it note. And then I was like, it's fucking inefficient. I hate inefficiency, right? I was like, I can't pre-write all the Post-it notes and peel them off. And so then I said to her, let's do a book. And she's like, yeah. And I was like, I had written kind of, you know, sort of at the, you know, kind of just towards the end of my chemo, I wrote a memoir and it was a bestseller, and I did it with Alan and Unwin. So I was like, I'll go back to Alan and Unwin and they'll obviously understand that green smoothies are a huge thing and they'll want to do it. And they laughed. They laughed so hard they roared with laughter. So then I said to my agent, oh, can you like ask another publisher? And he's like, yeah. And it was the joke of the industry. This book was the joke of the industry. Everyone said no. And I mean everyone. I mean from like all your main publishers down to like some small 2-bit publisher at the back of Wagga. Everybody said no about this book. And I was like, fuck this, I'm going to self-publish. And back then, which is, I think is so funny, Canva wasn't around. So to do it, really what's essentially now glorified PDF, you had to get a book designer. I had to get this book designer. She was based in Italy and she made this like book and we wrote all the recipes. We photographed it in my apartment. And I remember I took this one meeting with this book publisher who was like kind enough to do me a favor to take a meeting. And I was like, what would I sell this book for? And he was like, sell the book. No one's going to buy that book from you. And I was like, oh. And he was like, you're going to give it away for free and you'd be lucky if anyone takes it.
Whoa.
And I was like, oh. And I was like, oh, I was going to sell it. And he was like, oh, well, maybe like 99 cents at most. And I was like, fuck you. I'm not doing that. So we finished the book. We put it up on Amazon and iTunes. We did it for $14.99. We went to bed and we woke up and it was number one. And then the publisher came back and was like, oh.
Isn't that interesting?
A little hasty on that. I think we'll do the book. And it's still number one in its category. Hasn't been outsold. It's still,
After how long?
It's been over a decade. It's Super Green Smoothies is what put green smoothies on the map in this country. Nobody had heard of a green smoothie until we launched that book. We were like on all the TV shows making green smoothies and people are like, why is she putting spinach in the blender? People didn't even own a blender. But I'm really proud of that, because it was like, and people will still be like, oh my God, I got the smoothie book. I have the book in my kitchen. I'm like, that's amazing. And that's the origins of our brand. When the book came out, I was like, okay, why don't we start? We'd already started a blog sharing recipes and health tips and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. And we didn't really know, like back then, people didn't talk about founder content. We just did founder content. This is what you did. You were building a community. You didn't call it that though. You were just like, you had a blog and you just shared stuff and you got on socials and you did stuff. And then I was like, okay, when they sell the book, we will too. And that was the beginning of our Shopify store and the beginning of the business.
You've said that the wellness market is oversaturated and people are tuning out. Why?
There's so much misinformation. I think there's so many brands. Every day there's some new brand that pops up. But do they all have longevity? Do they all stay? Not necessarily. You know what I mean? So then people are like, oh, but I was having this one and then they're gone and now there's another one. And then people are like, it's so, there's so much lying. Oh my God, there's so much lying. It's outrageous. It's actually outrageous. And the other thing that I think is really interesting is you'll have brands that will have said, for example, for 5 years, we're only vegan. And then when the collagen kind of wave hits, they're like, no, we don't believe in collagen because it's not vegan. And then when they're realizing, oh, hang on a minute, collagen's really here to stay, they're like, oh, except this one, which now we're also into. So, well, hang on a minute, the customer now doesn't trust. So they don't, like, there's so much mistrust. One minute, you'll have a brand doing candles and the next minute they're doing a greens powder. It's like, well, what does your brand stand for? You're like, are you actually, a wellness brand? So this is the thing. And then there's so much shoddiness that goes on, like people selling like essentially ingredients that are banned in this country, but they'll sell them because they're like FSANZ doesn't have time to like run around policing everyone. The TGA doesn't have time to run around policing everyone. So that stuff happens. And then when you say to people, oh, no, you can't have, for example, lion's mane, that's a banned ingredient in this country. They're like, oh, that's weird. But I just saw brand X have it. I'm like, so then you're trying to follow a set of rules and standards that not everyone's following. And so then people start to get confused and then they don't believe anyone. And then if you add to that, then people promoting products that they don't actually take, so it's like you've got this whole kind of like people getting paid to promote products they don't actually take. So then people feel like the whole thing's disingenuous.
So if you're looking at the market as a health brand and you're seeing the tomfoolery and the market, whether you want to play the right card or not, the market are uneducated.
Totally.
They're unaware and they can go buy from a competitor.
Totally.
So then how should someone navigate a health and well-being brands in spite of all these things taking place?
I think like if you're the consumer, the thing is like you have to look at a brand and go, where is this brand besides online? Because online is the Wild West, right? Like it is. It is.
That's a good way of phrasing it.
I think it is. It's like anybody can set up a website and anybody can set up a Shopify store. And like, let's face it, I could be concocting something in my garage with my foot and you wouldn't know, right?
I've had conversations with people that have run garage operations for supplement brands. Yes.
There you go.
It's commonplace.
So it's commonplace, right? So then you go, okay, if I want a brand, if I want a level of assurity, where else can I get this brand? Can I get this brand, for example, at Chemist Warehouse, at Priceline? Is this brand TGA approved? Like, what are some things that I'm looking for here? Has this brand been around for a decade? Has this brand, like, what's some other stuff here that goes besides like just a pretty website with pretty pictures? Because anybody could do that. My 12-year-old could do that, you know? I think people have to ask themselves like the serious question, you know? I think also like people should also ask themselves, what is it that I want for my body? What is it that I need? You know, I think also like if you like the look of a brand because X, Y, Z, great, but then do a bit of reading, you know? Like you just like, do you know what makes me laugh? You'll spend 40, not you, but like people, me included, right? I'll spend 45 minutes in a change room for a t-shirt, right? I'll spill coffee on it and then I'll be like, this t-shirt's ruined. But people will buy products for their health with way less care than their t-shirt. You know, you can buy another t-shirt, you can buy new sneakers. If you smash your phone, you can get another one, but you'll never be able to buy another body. You just can't. Show me where you can go. Where are you going to go to get another one? That one that you've got is the only one you've got. Yet people will give it no care, no regard. They just whip it and expect it to drag it along and like survive under like the intensity that you give it. Yet you'll spend 45 minutes agonizing whether the seam on this t-shirt's perfect.
So if the internet and e-commerce is the Wild West,
yeah,
how do consumers know who to trust?
I think like don't be afraid to reach out to a brand. See if you get an answer you like. Do they have an in-house naturopath? Ask them if you know, like actually, is it stocked somewhere else? Can you like look at reviews? You know, look at reviews. You know, I see so often I'll see something and I'll be like, that's weird. And then you'll go to the Instagram and it's like, there's nothing here. Does this brand have events? Can you see other people having this product? Ask your friends. Ask them, what are you having? What are you consuming? What do you like? You know, like do some education for yourself, you know, and, you know, it takes a lot to survive in this industry. And you're only going to survive, I think, as a brand when you really produce excellent products. So also ask yourself, has this brand been around 3 months, 3 years, a decade?
And do people shop, in your opinion, on brands or on products? Because in the health and well-being space, it seems like it can really depend.
Yeah, I think people are product loyal. That's my opinion. I think people are product loyal. And I think that makes sense. So you would have, for example, this particular greens powder by this brand that you love, but you will have this particular fish oil by another brand that you love. I think there are like a small cohort of people, my favorite people, who are brand loyal. We love those people.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little bit like your wardrobe. You know, you might get this top from, you know, you
they
like
might try things.
Yeah, you've got to mix and match.
To the same brands.
Yeah. You know, and I think it's like when you find a product that works, you know, but sometimes people be like, this product's been working really well, so I think I'm going to try another one. But why? It's actually going great for you.
Because if you think back like to Blackmore's, etc., like when I think back and I flick through catalogs of, you know, old ads from older brands in the health and well-being space, they would create a product that was fantastic that, you know, had a buzz or sensation around it, and they could ride that for decades.
Legacy brands, they had no competition.
Yeah.
They produced a lot of single ingredient products, so like vitamin C, iron. So it's like these are single ingredients, you know. Yeah, those guys did not have a lot of competition for a long time.
Where it's very different now, because you could establish a moat around your brand, if you will, because you have the factory, the suppliers, the relationships, the black book with the right partners. Now anyone can set up a shop, you know, use their feet in their garage, make a supplement, and launch a product. And what what do you think is happening in the market? Because I can imagine if you're at the helm of a well-being brands and these trends are popping up, there does feel the need to jump on the same train if you want your business to survive.
Yeah. So do you know, it's funny, I was saying the other day, I think it's never been easier ever to start a business. I think it's never been easier, right? It's Instagram, you can basically do Instagram ads, you can set up a Shopify store in minutes, you can get a website in minutes, you've got iStock, you've got like 1,000 photos, you can do AI. It has literally never been easier to start a business, but it's never been harder to keep one. It's never been harder to keep one.
Oh my God. You're right, because it feels like the risk threshold.
Because everybody can start one. So it's never been harder to keep one because everybody's starting one. Everyone wants to be a founder. Everyone thinks the founder journey is super exciting. Everyone wants to, blah, blah. And that's fine. But it's never been harder to keep a customer, to keep their loyalty, to earn their loyalty, to treasure them and look after them because it's so noisy, and not just in our space, in every space.
So if someone is listening to this and thinking to themselves, I want to survive.
Yeah.
What is the playbook in your opinion?
I think the playbook is yes, to your question, like you see all these trends popping up and you're like, I want to do it. But is it right for your brand? Because the thing is too, is like every time you follow a trend, that's cash flow that you've invested. You better know that you need to know your customer. Is your customer going to buy that? Like just because it's a trend, like let's just like what's an example of a trend, say that we haven't done? Like say bars, right? Protein bars, for example. So that's a massive trend and we could do a protein bar, but we haven't wanted to. Why? Because we're investing our cash flow in something else that we feel is of greater value and greater importance. I'm not saying protein bars aren't important, but just for our brand that we feel is of greater importance, right? So we're obsessed with longevity supplements. So that's where we want to spend our money. So if you're going to be a follower, like, oh my God, there's protein bars. Oh my God, now there's collagen. Oh my God, now there's this. You're not going to stand for anything. So you've got to decide, you really want to build a moat around your brand and you're like, you guys are going to come to me when you need this. That's what you'll be able to build. But if you're going to be everything, you're going to run out of cash. And that's a bigger problem.
So it's almost like you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Shooting yourself in the foot.
By trying to chase trends.
Correct.
And if you think about like collagen gummies and all these kind of things that come and go.
Gummies is a great one.
Like they have a short lifespan, right?
Correct. And if you're a brand that's like, we're all about gummies, cool, double down. But if you're like, for example, I do not believe in gummies, right? They are like, if you want a gummy, roll on down the sugar aisle in the lolly aisle at the supermarket. I love a lolly. Go there, right? Yeah. But most supplements that are a gummy, the first ingredient's like generally glucose, the second ingredient's gelatin, because that's what fills up the gummy. And you're very, very hard pressed to get anything that's of an active ingredient that's actually of any benefit. Now, that's a stand that we make. Now, if you're a brand that does gummies, no worries. But you can't be everything. You better pick what you're going to be or you're not going to survive.
If I may be selfish here for a moment, I understand creatine, a way a sports scientist explained it to me.
Yes.
Basically, it's like if you're lifting a weight and you get to the 10th rep and you're struggling, there's a compound in the muscle that atrophies. But if you have creatine, it allows you to get that extra 1 or 2 reps in.
Correct.
Because it's like resupplying the muscle tissue to get the extra energy in.
Yes.
When you're thinking about a supplement like creatine, for example, and how it's been now attached to gummies, and then we've seen the news come out where these brands are coming out that don't even have the key ingredient in the products.
I know. And can I tell you how annoying it is? Because it's annoying for the customer who's spending their hard-earned money and then they'll say stuff like, I just don't think creatine works. And it's like, no, it's not the creatine that doesn't work. It's the creatine gummy that you're taking that has basically no creatine in it. So it's like, this is sort of where coming back to like, people have got to ask themselves, if I was running a restaurant, right? And when you go to order a steak, it's like, this is a 200-gram T-bone. This is a 150-gram eye fillet. Yet people will roll down and they'll buy a creatine gummy and not ask themselves, how much creatine's actually in this thing, or patches. And it's like, the patches are not approved by the TGA. They don't work, like that same sort of thing. It's like, ask yourself, what am I actually getting here? And like, take some responsibility for yourself, you know? So yeah, it's like you can't, I think it's so funny when from both perspectives, when customers don't like look after themselves properly, it's like that's your hard-earned money. Look after it. Like you deserve to, if you want to feel good, then get the right thing. You know, you're not going to get you're not going to pay for 150-gram steak, but actually imagine if you found out it was really just cauliflower, but with the steak seasoning, you know, but it was a steak, you know, like a vegan steak.
Then you can't be like, steak doesn't work.
You know, the steak doesn't work. It's like, it's vegan, you know, it's like, it's like when the vegan collagen trend was happening, right? And everyone was like, oh, I'm looking for a vegan collagen. But it's like, but technically collagen is an animal product. So if you're vegan, no problem, but just don't then exit that desire for collagen, you know, but you can't have it both ways, you know. But brands coming back to wanting to be to piggyback will be like, we're a vegan brand, so this plant thing's vegan collagen. Like, well, no. In the same way, this cauliflower with steak seasoning is not a steak.
And how do you convince consumers that they need a product if they don't know what it is?
Don't set out to convince, I think, is number one. So like, I think if you're trying to convince, then you're trying too hard to sell. And then I think people can feel you're trying to sell them. You know, I think it's like, my thing is like, you want to buy it, buy it. You don't want to buy it, don't buy it. I'm just going to share with you how your life could be better. You don't want it to be better, no problem. But here's the information, you know. But I don't want to start really trying to sell you. And it's like you just be like, see, straight away.
Cross my arms, my guard's up.
Like, it's fucking tense, you know.
You can smell it.
Yeah.
And desperation is repulsive.
I don't want to sell you anything. I don't want to convince you. When you're ready, you'll convince. When you go, you know what, I want this for myself, then you'll, you know, come down the funnel.
And what's something that founders can do to make their product content more engaging and less of a lecture?
Be yourself. You know, like it's funny, people go, oh, founder content's so critical, so critical, so critical. But like lots of brands got built without founder content. Founder content really, like when we started and we're doing founder content, it wasn't called that. I don't know, we just like picked up our phone and just made content, you know. But not everybody is comfortable in front of a camera, you know. So if you're not, then find another way to share or put your message out there, or find a way to share that feels true to you. But I think ultimately, if you don't think of it as selling, if you just think of it as talking, that will help you, you know, like, and I would say if I was to think back to when I first wanted to get into TV, just practice. Lift up your camera and start. Don't press go on it. Don't think it's going to go live or whatever. And just practice. Just practice. You should be doing, if you're not comfortable, if you want to do founder content and you're not comfortable, you got to be fucking holding your phone and doing hours every day until you're so comfortable.
Put in the reps.
Put in the reps. Amen.
And how has your educational strategy evolved over the years? Because it feels like consumers are way more educated now than they've ever been. Way more, which is really good. Way more, which is really good. And also the benefit of that is that it allows you to lean on references that you couldn't, you know, a decade ago. We didn't have, Huberman wasn't around a decade ago. So you couldn't be like, hey guys, here's Huberman, a scientist who you all know and respect, and he says this. And everyone goes, cool, that's great. So it's like it evolves as trends and things evolve. You're able to lean on more tools. So in a way, you didn't have that before. So it's if you just look at what's going on for the customer is a normal person just like you, right? They're holding their phone, they're scrolling, they talk about the same stuff at dinner like you do. So what are those things? Who are those people that they're talking about? You know, and what are those examples? What is that? And that's the stuff that you have to use, you know. If they're, for example, you know, I was saying to somebody recently because they were like trying to pitch to get into a retailer. They were like, oh, but the buyer. And I was like, the buyer's just a normal person sitting in bed with his or her phone scrolling. So
who are they following so that your brand is going to pop up on their radar, so that when you do your outreach, they're like, yeah, I have seen that brand before. They're not somebody who's like literally in a little closet by themselves with no access to the real world. It's just a person, and your customers and their education's the same. So it's like, what can you use that they are aware of that you can piggyback on?
So I want to talk about gut versus data. You've said that the philosophy, or your philosophy for customer feedback, is listen, but don't always listen.
It is.
How do you decide when to follow intuition over public opinion?
I'm heavy on gut and intuition, and very low on public opinion, as is evidenced by my entire life.
You like pay attention to it, but like don't always get super absorbed by it.
And I think it's for two reasons. And the reason I believe it in every aspect, but specifically first starting with the customer and specifically in wellness, is I think people don't know what they want because it's not their job to know. So that's why I don't listen, because in theory, like they would have still be, if we were waiting, they'd still be like, oh, I know vitamin C. How about iron? I'm not taking anything away from those, but that's all they knew until it was like, oh, now they know there's greens powders, sleep powder. Now so they're getting educated as the brands are producing the stuff. It's the brand's job. It's our job to be at the cutting edge of science and then tell them. So I can't wait for them to tell me what they want because they don't know what they want yet. Nor are they supposed to. But also, if you ask them always what they want, they might go, like, for example, let's just say, I think, green powder is a great example, or even like a NAD booster. If I'd said, hey guys, we're going to make a NAD booster. Does anyone want that? I guarantee you probably 99% of people would have said, I don't think so. Because let's face it, they've lived up until then without it. So why would they suddenly go, oh my God, that's the thing I was missing, So they're not going to know they need it until you educate them and explain, hey, here's what it is. Here's how it's going to change. Here's how it's better for you. So if you're waiting for, and that ties in, I think, with founders just needing everyone to be in agreement and clapping with them and telling them why their ideas are good. This is the problem with ChatGPT, right? Because it's like an echo chamber. Every time we type something in, it goes, great idea. It's like, shut the fuck up. Don't tell me that. Like, I need you to obviously pick apart anything I'm telling you, because you don't want only to hear, yes, do that. You've got to have some that sense of like this, I feel this, you need to have, the founder journey is not easy, right? So if you don't get comfortable with people being like, I don't know about that. And you're driving the bus, right? You got to be like, guys, absolutely, this is going to be great. And then you jump and you work it out on the way down.
I like what you said earlier about how much you've lent into grit to be able to propel your career, both in media and now in SWIISH.
Yeah.
When you think about grit, are there any other ingredients that you've lent into that you felt have given you an advantage over the competition?
Risk. Without a doubt, risk. I have a high appetite for risk. So when we started SWIISH, for example, and I had my TV career, back then people did not start brands, right? You were the face of another brand. You could be, for example, one time I was like an ambassador for Westfield, that's what you did. You didn't start your own brand. Everyone, when I started SWIISH, was like, the hell are you doing that for? That was not a thing. I was like, it's going to.
You're not going to get paid for that.
Yeah. Exactly. Everyone's like down,
get paid by another brand.
Yeah, get paid by another brand. What the hell are you going to put your own money in for, doing why are you going to put your own money in? But that appetite for risk, I definitely have. And I also think the more you, like grit, it's a muscle. The more you exercise it, the more it gets stronger, but also evidence, I would also say, is the third thing. So evidence that you can do hard stuff, evidence that you can get through hard times, evidence that your intuition and gut instinct is correct, right? You collect that also along the way. That's also a muscle, right? The evidence muscle. So then when you get a hurdle, you're like, hang on a minute. You don't fall apart. You're like, I've done this, or I've done something similar, or I've been able to get through something similar. So it's like those three things. That building of grit, building of risk, and building of evidence as you go, that lets you know what, keep going.
Now, when you think about risk, a few things come to mind. having worked in sales for so long, there's common objections that come up. Can I throw them at you?
Do them.
Can you
let's do this.
Fruit ninja them back at me? Yeah. Okay. So the first one being, I agree, but it's not the right time right now. I need my life to be in better alignment before I jump into this.
It'll never be the right time. And if you're not going to honestly jump, then you're probably not the right temperament for doing this, because the whole temperament of a founder is really somebody who's jumps. You have to jump. If you're going to wait for everything to be right, it'll never be right, because you'll never have enough money in the bank as a safety net. The kids will never be old enough. Nothing will ever be perfect. And in fact, the longer you wait, it's not the harder it is to start, but the less likely you are to start. So my sister, who is a co-founder in the business with me, and I think this is a really good example. So she wanted to start a business. Originally, she wanted to start back when blogs were very new and it was a big advertising model, right? She wanted to start a blog. It was a bit like Time Out before Time Out was around, like places to go, restaurants to eat at or whatever. Now, she spoke about that for years, and never did anything. She doesn't have a high-risk profile. She doesn't. And she would say that, which is what makes her and I a good partnership, right? Because I'm jump, Thelma.
You're let's just send it.
Yeah, just send it, and she's like, what?
Yeah.
But I also need somebody who's a little bit hey, have you actually read the fine print? Because I just see you signing all kinds of random documents you haven't read. I'm I don't read fine print, be fine. But so she laughs, right? She goes, I talked about that, starting that for years and didn't, because you can't just start. Just fucking start,
Okay. Second challenge. I don't have enough time to make this possible.
Correct. And if you think that, you are correct.
Oh,
okay. And if you're literally limited only by your thoughts. And if you think you don't have enough time, 100% you should just stay on the couch. You know what? Because you are correct. You will have to make the time if you want this to work. If you think you're not going to have the time, you're right.
How do I make the time?
Just like that. You will cut out the shit that just does not make a difference. If you want it enough, it will be very easy to be I do not need 4 hours of Netflix 5 nights a week. You will cut that. You will make time. You will 100% time. You will get so efficient at getting stuff done quickly. You only do the stuff that moves the needle. You just move fast.
Okay, number 3. I don't know anyone who can help me with this.
You don't need anyone. Have you heard of the internet? You literally do not need anybody. You can set up whether you can find product. If you're wanting to create a product or make a product, if you're in a service business, you can it's never been easier. The internet is there. And if you're waiting, the reason people go, I don't know anybody, is really they want the hand holding. It's not the skill, it's the hand holding. They want someone to hold their hand and tell them it's going to be all right. And if you need that, you're also not the right temperament, because it's fucking not going to be all right. Quite a lot of the time, it is not all right. But that you'll be all right. The situation might not be right, but you'll be all right and you'll get through it. You don't need somebody. You can choose to do it with somebody, but you don't need somebody.
Now, the final one, and I hear this most often, I don't have enough money or resources to even begin to entertain this idea.
Okay, there's an element of truth to this. There is an element of truth to this, but not 100%. So you can start anything, almost anything, on a small scale. And it's never been easier to do that, right? Because the barriers to entry are so much less now. So you can start on a small scale. So say, for example, we do supplements now where minimum runs are 100,000, but it wasn't always like that. And some things aren't like that. So you can start small. And there's things like pre-orders, and there's things so you'll find an excuse if you want it. There's no shortage of excuses. But if you want it, if you actually want it, none of those things will enter your mind. None of them, So yeah. I think if you're the kind of person who's got all these reasons why, sure. Sure.
So if someone has a low risk profile, can or should they become an entrepreneur?
No, you can. No, I take that back. You can. If you have a low risk profile, you can. But I think that you will it'll be slower, right? Because business is about speed. You do have to move quickly, I think, to grow, right? So I think if you have a low risk profile, you probably will maybe are better suited to a business that doesn't require mass. You know, you're, for example, creating a service and you only need to service 20 people at a time. You're like, let's just say, for example, say you're a life coach, right? That's a low risk business, right? You're not having to really produce product. You only need a handful of clients because you're capped by your hours. So that you can, if you have a low risk profile, but the business you choose has to match it. You can't decide that you want to do a different kind of business. Like a business like ours is not for somebody with a low risk profile.
Okay. And if you think about your appetite for risk, you've said your ability to stomach risk has grown. Is that an emotional evolution or a strategic one?
Emotional. I think it's emotional. I think it's evidence-based because it's like as I've gotten through different things, I'm like, I look back on them and I'm like, oh, now that doesn't seem like such a big deal, you know? So I'm like, it's kind of like jumping. I remember as a kid, I used to always say to my mum and dad, I used to have this saying, I will rise to the challenge. And it was about jumping over the coffee table, you know, because you guys think I can jump over the coffee table? And they were like, no. And I'm like, watch, you know, and the more you jump over the coffee table, the more you're like, it's actually not that high, you know, and so it doesn't really seem like a big deal anymore. So then when a bigger coffee table is presented, you're like, yeah, I can do that. And it doesn't really phase you as much. I think because you know that you can get over it. You've been through so many speed bumps that you're like, oh. Oh. You know, I had this founder friend of mine the other day, we were texting backwards and forwards and she was like, blah, 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 blah. And then there was a class action lawsuit. I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. I was like, oh. So see, that's like, I was like, what the fuck? And she's obviously further along in her muscle and her risk. It was honestly so far down the chat, it was like nothing. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Okay, now in the supplement health space, like consumables that people buy recurringly, is there any risk around introducing new products? And can this disrupt the current business model?
Yes, definitely. It definitely can. And also, you know, sometimes we talk about like if you have multiple flavors of a product, right? Do people end up just moving between them, you know, and you kind of, you didn't really grow anything, you're just moving between them. You know, I think the risk is always that you've only got, your cash is finite. And that's the reality of a business, right? Whether it's investor money or your own money, your cash is finite. So every decision you make is like, okay, do I do more? Do I invest it here, like, and make this product, or do I not do that and do something else? You know what I mean? Like, you're always forced to choose, what am I doing here? And actually, am I going to ultimately grow the business either in revenue or in customer numbers, or like, you know, how am I growing the business? And it's funny because sometimes we'll be like, because I'm very big on product, right? We need new product. I'm always screaming, right? And Marcus, product, I need product, I need new product.
I need something exciting
and
new.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then coming back to limited resources, it's not just money, it's also your team, right? Okay, well, your team, if they're producing content about this product, they're now not doing that one. So does that one get forgotten about? You know, we always talk about like, you've got like these 3 heroes, but are they really the heroes because they're the heroes, or are they just the 3 heroes because they're the 3 that you made the most the most content about? They're the ones, you've only got X amount of advertising dollars. Are they the ones that you push the most? How do you know? I mean, lots of brands, you know, we sometimes talk about brands that have just one product, right? It's like, you know, like one product. And it's like, you're able to invest everything just in that one thing. And it's like, yeah. And then the argument's like, yeah, but if the customer doesn't want that one thing, you got nothing else to offer them. But you're like, yeah, but I've spent all my resources in convincing you on that one thing. So it's a tricky one because I always feel like new product's good because it's a way to get new market, you know. So like when we just launched the active range, it's like, great, that's a market that we hadn't really kind of tapped in before. I wanted to get into that space. You know, it gives people something new. People love new. That's why fashion's so great, right? got a new drop every 5 minutes. And it's like, I'm so envious. I'm like, oh, you're so lucky every third day. You're like, new T-shirt, new colors, you know? And it's hard to do that in wellness because your MOQs are so high. The production time is like 6 months plus, you know, so you're not like, you know, and you don't want to be stuck with stuff that you've sold into your retailer that actually you don't want, you know, like, so it's like you've got to really decide, is this product, it's a consumable, but it's not a T-shirt. You know, if people get hooked on this product and they love it, you can't then pull it 3 months later and be like, oh, soz.
You got to be all in.
You got to be all in.
Now you talk about, with all of this in mind, that your intention is to create the SWIISH family. And this is something that you didn't come up with, that your community just spouted back to you. It was like, hey, we feel like we're a part of a family.
Yeah.
How do you intentionally cultivate so much community that they feel like they're a part of an inside club?
I think it's like we share beyond just like, hey, here's this product, you know, blah, blah, blah. But it's also like what else is going on. So when we just went to London, say in May, for example, to launch the brand, it's like we launched the YouTube channel. So you're coming with us. You're like, okay, we're going to do this. So you're on the experience with us and it's through the highs and lows. So recently we had this like packaging debacle and I was in Priceline and you saw me, I was in there and it's like, oh my God, I think the packaging's been produced and it's the wrong size and now I'm going to have to send it all back. So it's not just, it's like I'm sharing with you, you know, what we're doing and why we're doing it. And it's not always glitzy. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to a lunch, we've got an event. It's not just all that. You're seeing us, for example, schlepping boxes. We're like in the car. Maha and I, for example, earlier in the year, also on our YouTube, we had this we don't disagree. Like we disagree a lot, but we don't have big fights a lot. But we had a really, really big fight earlier in the year. And she was on the YouTube channel talking about like, we had this big fight. I'm really annoyed with her. And I was like, this is my perspective, blah, blah, blah. So we're not just like shiny, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe it's not sort of intentional. Maybe it's just because of the way everything began. It's just like we're real. It's like sometimes when I'm like at Aldi and someone will stop me and they'll be like, oh my God, what are you doing in here?
You're normal.
And I'm like,
yeah.
wait, oh my God, I'm in Aldi. How'd I get here?
You should do that. Just start freaking people out. Like,
yeah.
Whoa.
Oh my God. I was like, just getting my groceries.
So something we like to ask everyone in conclusion of our discussions here is around the concept of agency. And for me, it's, you know, sometimes people think we named it agency because I have an agency, but it's all about how people take high agency. For you and all this energy you're poured into this brand and your content and the constant innovation around products and how you can bring great, cool, new innovative supplements to help women into the world. What does taking agency mean to you?
I think for me, it's honoring how lucky you are to be alive. Every day that you wake up, somebody else will be literally wishing that they had that one more day, right? Every day, people will wake up, they'll make their toast and coffee and not know it's their last day on earth. They'll get hit by a bus, they'll have a car crash, anything. They'll not know. Or they'll get devastating news or anything will happen. So every day that you get to live, you deserve to look after yourself, to honor your body. You deserve to feel good. You're not an afterthought. You know what I mean? I think so often people are like, women I think a lot in particular too, it's like, make sure everyone's okay, make sure everyone's okay. But also you deserve to feel not just okay, but great. You know, you deserve that. Having that, honoring that you're alive and every day you get, you should live not just physically well, but emotionally, you deserve to feel emotionally well, spiritually well, socially well. Like you deserve that, you know, so that when your last day comes, you're like, you know what? I gave this all I could. Like I always say, my favorite saying is like, hand on heart, I gave it all I could.
I guess one last thing I'm curious about, when you were faced with your own mortality and the whole world turned upside down, what in that moment stuck with you that you felt changed how you saw how to, I guess, approach life?
I think one of my biggest memories was I watched this period of time when I was in treatment. I watched the seasons change, right? And it's something I'd like never really given any thought to. I remember this one day going to radiation and like all the trees along Oxford Street in Paddington, all the leaves had gone down. And I was like, I wonder if I'll live to see next autumn, you know? And I remembered like being on my balcony and everyone was like having like Christmas barbecues and stuff. And I was like, and I could hear them speaking about like, next year I'm going to blah, blah. In that same way we all do with like assuredness that we're going to have all of that, you know? And I was like, I always was like, oh, I'll live to 90 and I'll have kids and grandkids and I'll be able to travel. And, you know, like you just assume, and it's a healthy assumption, you're supposed to. But then I was struck by like, actually I don't know where that assumption came from. That's almost, it's a privilege if you get it, but you're not guaranteed it, you know? And so the thing that's like the most overarching is like, you're not guaranteed these days. So you absolutely have to live them, you know? It's living. You have to live them, you know? And you should enjoy them, you know? It's not to say it's always going to be enjoyable, but you squeeze the juice, you know? Squeeze the juice. What was your question? I actually forgot the question.
No, you answered it eloquently, and it's poetic. And I think what I'm nodding to here is like, it seems like this moment signified a change in your life.
Yeah.
And pairing that with your appetite for risk
Yeah.
and your passion to just live it out
Yeah.
and push everything to the max. It seems like you're not just here to make money, you're here to do good, you're here to help people. Like that agency that you're taking.
Yes.
It feels like this is all quagmired together.
It's very personal, you know, like, so sometimes, you know, when business is hard, you know, I'll sometimes be like, and wellness businesses, particularly if you're like playing within the rule book, right? It's really tough, right? The TGA is not easy. Like things are just, it's not easy. You know, I just saw, we just went to see Gary Brecker speak, and he was like, we have these, he's fantastic, right? And he's like, I've got this, you know, supplements and I'm trying to get them into Australia. And I'm like, fuck, it's so hard here. And we're like, oh, we know, you know.
You're like, get in line at the club.
Get in line at the club. We are behind us and we know it's so hard. And so when it's really hard like that, and I'm like, oh, you know, like, oh, but the point is like, I take nothing away from lip gloss. I love it, but like it's not. It doesn't move me. You know, my whole thing is I hope and pray you feel amazing. I want you to wake up and be like, I fucking feel amazing. You know, that's what I want. You know, that's why it's personal to me.
I feel like you're doing that, and at such a epic scale.
Thank you.
And I like that you're giving everything the chef's kiss.
Thank you.
And you do it because you love it.
Thank you.
And this has been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank
I wish
you.
we had more time. I wish we could unpack some more stuff, but my God, you're crushing it. It's been a joy to sit here and listen to you. And
a pleasure.
We certainly love to have you back.
Please. I would love that.
But Sally, thank you so much.
Thank you.